Yeah, just one comment. For me, one of the most clear examples, recent examples of what Jaime was talking about the illegibility. Illegibles. Illegibility. That thing.
Whatever, yeah.
Of black suffering. In anywhere in the African diaspora, but maybe we could extend to the global south, is the amazing outrage and reaction and level and scale of reaction with the 4 or 5 beheadings that have happened, and at the same time that there is nobody seems to be shedding a single tear, I mean in the US at least, about the hundreds and hundreds of people killed by drones in Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan and so forth. So how this amazing imbalance that, the beheadings of 5, nobody wants anybody to be beheaded, but it's just amazing imbalance in the nationalization of that response to the suffering of these 4 white people. That happened in Latin America as well, almost the same as here, with the white middle class in Latin America. And the lack of compassion and feeling of solidarity and support with the hundreds of people that have been killed by drones.
Yeah, just real quick, but something that came up right at the end with Fernando's questions, but it's something I was thinking about throughout the day, is that we kind of, when we began the conversations 15, 20 years ago about contentious politics, there was a challenge to this notion that civility normatively frames and kind of encapsulates the notion of protest, and that somehow we're not going to talk about violent or armed actors, and we're not going to talk about religious actors because they're not civil. And that was kind of a conversation we all had, and then it kind of settled back into an accepted set of norms. But I think when we're talking about Brazil today, to not talk about messianic, charismatic religious actors, and to not talk about the new militia movements and new vigilante politics coming out of middle-class groups, right, which abject the conversation around race, but which proliferate different forms of social violence and never address, these are both the new popular and the upper popular classes that have been lifted up by the PT, but are now completely rejecting the liberal social democratic PT values of a particular era. So we have the evangelicals that are actually very diverse in Brazil, but for the most part they're very pro-capitalist and very right-wing, but also have a populist notion of politics, but which doesn't articulate with PT anymore. And then we have these new militia movements, vigilante movements, which actually control much more territory in places like Rio de Janeiro than either the famous UPPs or the police. And they're middle-class movements that have often their own charismatic and moralistic, messianic type dimensions to them. So none of them are civil protests, and nobody articulated them theoretically or politically with the big protests in June 2013, but they're so much more important in terms of daily life, daily governance, and how they displace the question of racial violence from visibility, and how they replace it with an obsession with gender, morality, and sexuality, which it's just this big switch that's happened recently. I mean, it's oversimplifying, but I think methodologically and epistemologically, when we talk about protests, we're missing religion and armed actors, which are doing what we are hoping protests would do, which is massively transforming the exercise of daily life and the norms of the political subject. So this is something that I think came up in all the edges of everyone's presentation here, but someone just back from Rio de Janeiro and dealing with vigilante movements and mass massacres across the board, it's something to think about.
Thank you.